Nube is a highly regarded exorcist known throughout Japan for his impressive cosmic abilities. This time, he was summoned by the principal of a well-known high school to help get rid of all the ghosts and paranormal activity going on around there. The situation at the school deteriorated to the point where accidents brought on by evil spirits frequently injured students. Nube took on the role of homeroom teacher for a group of ineffective children. Rumor has it that he is the only teacher in Japan that has psychic powers, and just by looking at him, it's obvious he's confident about handling this job. The principal took a deeper look and discovered that the town was emitting a spiritual magnetic field. However, this magnetic field is unique and distinct from the types typically found in environments like forests. It arises when the town's circulating energies fail to maintain their equilibrium. As a result of this recent paranormal activity, the city drew in a lot of spiritual energy and ended up creating a special magnetic field. That's the only possible explanation for all the ghost sightings that have been happening lately. Meanwhile, in Class 5, MC Kobano is busy lecturing Katsuya about how he shouldn't be using smartphones in class. But in response, Katsuya just passed her head, saying there's no teacher here to catch him. This topic reminded Katsuya of something funny that happened a while ago. So he calls out to his buddy Hiroshi to tell him. Hiroshi's body language reveals his desire for solitude. Apparently, he and Katsuya had a little fight in the past and haven't made up since then. Katsuya says he doesn't have any feelings of malice toward him anymore, and if anything, Hiroshi's the one who's being weird about it. Kyoto walks over to Hiroshi to try and cheer him up, but it's obvious Hiroshi still isn't having any of it. Katsuya can see that things are starting to get a little awkward between them, so he goes over to Kyoto and changes the topic, asking her whether she knows the kind of person their new homeroom teacher is going to be. Kyoto informs all her classmates that the new homeroom teacher is someone that she knew. Apparently, he used to live in her neighborhood. He continues to blab about how nice he is, but then at a certain point she accidentally blurts out that he has a mysterious power unlike any they've ever seen before. Her classmates hear that and immediately get curious as to what kind of power she was referring to. Her light-handed classmate is unexpectedly smarter than she looks. She pulls some reverse psychology on Kyoto and says that she's lying about the teacher having a mysterious power. Kyoto immediately seizes the opportunity and reveals that the teacher's mysterious ability is exorcism. A few seconds later, her crazy self realizes she shouldn't have said that, covering her mouth in shock. Still, her classmates hear it and don't believe her. They all assume that she's lying about it, but just then, the entire hallway goes dark and a dark, paranormal-looking being walks through it while the students just stare off. The door opens and it happens to be our protagonist, Nube. He appears at the door, a literal crystal ball in his hand and tons of cosmic shit floating around him. There's so much aura, the students even start to get a little scared. But he then loses that aura in the next moment as the fake cosmic fires he set accidentally catch on to him. About 20 minutes later, class is now in session. Our protagonist signs the board as Mr. Nube, their new homeroom teacher. Miki raises her hand up to ask a question. She tells Nube that she heard rumors of him having a special power, so she bluntly asks him to show them all what his power is. He takes them over to the school notice board and starts to perform some form of really silly exorcism ritual. And after watching that embarrassing display, the students are fairly convinced that he doesn't have any real exorcism powers. Miss Ritsuko hears the loud noises he was making and comes into the hallway, asking what all the ruckus is about. Mr. Nube walks up to her and confidently tells her that there are many ghosts haunting her, after which he pulls out his exorcism badge and suggests performing an exorcism on her. However, Miss Ritsuko is terrified by all this paranormal stuff, so she slaps him in the face and flees shortly after. The students witnessed this and all started to laugh. They all figured he was lying about having exorcism powers, but they find it kind of funny that he's willing to take it this far. After receiving a slap, Nube dropped his spellbook. Hoshiro picks it up, and as soon as his hands touch it, he begins to experience vivid flashbacks. Then a monster manifests in his mental space. In the next moment, he gets aggravated for literally no reason and starts to throw a tantrum. Kyoto tries to calm him down, but Nube just walks towards Hoshiro, saying he's going to take care of it. Nube harmlessly walks up to Hoshiro. Then in the next moment, Hoshiro throws a sharp right hook at him. Nube is easily able to block. However, he can now really see that the Hoshiro's behavior has a much deeper cause. Kyoto walks out to the cafeteria while the other students stand there, stunned by his recent attempt to hit their teacher. At the end of the day, the principal meets with Nube and asks him how his first day at school went. Nube tells the principal that on his first day here, he was able to notice tons of spirits and yokai, but the problem is that he can't just recklessly go around exorcising every single one he sees around school. He plans on deciding what to do next after he's gained the trust of the students. The principal knows that he's the expert when it comes to the paranormal activities, so he decides to leave it up to him. Later that night, Hoshiro goes to visit his father, who's currently being hospitalized. Here is a brief backstory. One day, while at home, Hoshiro suddenly entered a rage mode and hit his father on the head very hard with a vase. But his dad doesn't hold any grudges against him. He still loves him no matter what and plans on seeing this through with him to the very end. About half an hour later, Hiroshi leaves the hospital and is on his way back home, and out of coincidence, Miki and Kyoto happen to be passing that same district at the exact same time. Kyoto spots him and tries calling out to him. But Miki stops her because she heard that Hoshiro apparently had one of his tantrums again and hit a kid at soccer practice. Miki considers Hoshiro as nothing but bad news, so she doesn't want to get involved. Still, Kyoto doesn't really care about that, so she chases after Hoshiro on her own. As she crosses the street, her jaw drops in shock as she sees a demonic being hanging out of Hoshiro's ear for a second and then disappear. The next day at school, Kyoto walks into the class and tells Nube how worried she's about Hoshiro. He's been acting really weird lately. One second he would act like he's got no energy at all, then the next he would get irate all of a sudden. Hearing this, Nube agrees to have a talk with Hoshiro to find out what exactly the problem is. During break time, Hoshiro is seen in the bathroom affirming to himself that he's not going to get frustrated today. But just then, Nube comes out from nowhere and shows him a giant crystal ball, asking him to explain what's been up with his random bursts of anger these days. As anticipated, Hoshiro becomes enraged once more, expressing his dissatisfaction with paranormal phenomena, before violently removing the crystal ball from his grasp and striking his face. Then he just runs away. During the next class, Hoshiro realizes that he is so frustrated by his inability to use a tablet that he immediately enters his rage mode again. This time, Kyoto tries to calm him down, but before she can, Hoshiro smacks her right in the face. Kyoto lies there on the floor unconscious. Nube and some of her classmates come to check on her. She appears to be bleeding. Hoshiro is awake and staring at his palms. How could I have done that to Kyoto? Nube and Hoshiro spent several hours at the hospital reception that night, waiting for the doctor to release Kyoto from his custody. Then a few moments later, Kyoto walks up in front of them with a bright smirk on her face and tells them not to worry. The doctor says it's really not that serious, and she's going to be just fine. Hiroshi vows to apologize for putting his hands on her, and after he does, Nube tells Kyoto that he wants to have a private chat with him. Nube takes Hiroshi to an empty park, and after strolling for a while, they come across a random lady with a baby who has been crying for no reason. Nube walks up to the baby and places his finger on his palm and starts to recite an exorcism incantation. At first, Hiroshi shrugs, thinking it's another one of those exorcism crazy things. But as Nube continues to recite it, he notices that the wind starts to get stronger and the clouds get darker. Nube's eyes now glow a vibrant red color. He pulls out what looks like a magic demon worm out of the baby's palm. It turns out that Kyoto snuck out behind them. She hides in front of a tree and is watching the entire thing. After this worm has been removed, the baby's mood immediately changes to a happy one. Nube wears a serious expression on his face while he explains to Hiroshi that this worm is a cosmic being known as the tantrum worm. It doesn't normally possess people intentionally, but if it possesses you, you'll end up being cranky for absolutely no reason. It typically attaches itself to babies and doesn't do any harm. However, there are rare cases of it turning into a lethal monster known as the 99-legged bug. Nube suspects that the monster currently possessing him is the cause of all those temper tantrums. He says he'll have no choice but to exorcise it. Hashiro instantly experiences flashbacks of how the monster possessed him at the mention of those words. The monster now has full control of his body. Purple veins pulse across his skin, and his scream alone is powerful enough to hurl Nube into a tree. After that, Hiroshi runs through the park trying to escape Nube. Kyoto sees him running away and immediately chases after him. Hiroshi continues to get flashbacks of what happened with his dad. He presses his hands against the wall in frustration. The veins are attached to the wall and several creepy-looking eyes grow out of them. It's honestly starting to look kind of disgusting. Kibo runs over to Hiroshi to inquire about his condition, but unfortunately for her, Hiroshi has now been fully possessed, so he towers over Kyoto and tells her to get the hell out of there because he gets frustrated. He attacks her, trapping her in demon slime and appearing to devour her bodies. That's when Nube swoops in. He utilizes an enchantment seal to protect Hiroshi. This is an attempt at his exorcism. While he's being wrapped, he first of all hugs Hiroshi with one arm and then uses his other demon fist to punch the yokai out of him. The 99-legged bug is now out of his body and creeping up against the wall. Nube walks up to the monster and is just about ready to deliver the final blow. Honestly, Nube never expected the bug to get this big, but still, it's nothing he can't handle. The monster lunges forward to eat Hoshiro, but just before it can, Nube pushes him out of the way and gets eaten by the yokai. Hoshiro and Kyoto just stare and wonder whether this means they lost, but in the next moment, Nube bursts through the body of the yokai in a very dramatic manner. Blood spills all over the floor. The yokai has now successfully been exorcised. Nube walks over to the students and asks how they're doing. Hashiro immediately bows to apologize to Nube for making him deal with all this. Nube confronted him, emphasizing that it's a natural instinct for a teacher to assist their student in trouble, especially since Hiroshi is one of his favorite students, and he couldn't simply ignore the situation. At this point, Kyono and Hiroshi have just witnessed Nube's exorcism powers firsthand, so they now feel kind of dumb for doubting him in the first place. Then, without any warning, the next thing we see is a pretty good-looking blonde guy appears out of nowhere and squeezes Hiroshi by the neck and raises him off the ground. Kyoko watches this happen and isn't just going to stand idly by. She walks over to the blonde guy and tells him to unhand Hiroshi at once. The blonde guy clearly doesn't want any third parties in his business, so he sends Kyoko flying over to the same direction Nikkei was thrown to. As she lies on Nube's chest, she informs him that Hiroshi is in trouble. The newbie can clearly see that the blonde guy has an otherworldly aura and can easily tell that he is obviously not human. By the time they both climb the stairs and get to the main district, neither Hiroshi nor a handsome blonde guy is anywhere to be seen. So seeing this situation, Nube is confused as hell. But then in the next moment, he notices that his demon hand has started to burn up. Nube explains to Kyoko that his demon hand just burnt up because there's likely another demon living inside his hand since he exorcised Hiroshi and sealed the demon in there. Nube notices that Kyoko remains confused about his explanation, so he clarifies that the demon hand is a powerful weapon designed to combat spirits without vessels and fiendish yokai. More importantly, he needs to go and save Hiroshi as soon as possible, so he first asks Kyoko to get back home. Kyoko doesn't want to go home. She wants to stick around for Hiroshi and help rescue him. Still, Nube tells her that he won't allow it. The blonde guy's aura is far too intense and it would only put her life at risk if she came. Meanwhile, the blonde guy is seen on top of a roof with Hiroshi in his arms. He randomly throws him off the building, but then right before he hits the ground, he jumps down and catches him just in time. The blonde guy used this as a test on Hiroshi. Given that he remained calm, he can safely conclude that the tantrum worm has left him. He continues to walk around with Hiroshi in his arms while he screams for help. He notices that many people are staring at him, which makes him wonder if kidnapping is considered normal in this world. Just then, Nube comes out from nowhere and launches a spirit bind at him, but the blonde-haired guy is easily able to block it. It's time for him to launch his own attack. His eyes glow an ominous golden color as he initiates his infamous illusion jutsu, which makes all the nearby civilians take the form of his body. Nube stares at all the multiple blonde guys around him and starts to wonder whether he must be hallucinating. The odd blonde guy drops down from the bridge with Hiroshi in his arms, and by the time he looks over the ledge, it seems that Hiroshi just fell off it and plummeted to the ground. He looks in front and sees a giant tiger about to feast on Hiroshi. He jumps down and sacrifices himself as cover, but when the tiger gets closer, it fades and becomes a scooter-riding guy. He looks down at Hiroshi and sees that it was actually a cat all along. He looks around himself and his two brain cells click. He realizes the blonde guy's magic made everything move an illusion. That's his power, illusion jujutsu. Meanwhile, the real blonde guy is still on the move with Hiroshi. He notices that Hiroshi is starting to get a little whiny, so he uses another one of his magic spells that prevents him from moving. Hiroshi is now still aware of his actions and conscious, but he just can't move. The blonde guy can't afford delays because he'll execute his plan in the evening. Nube is still finding it really difficult to track them down. He even tries using his crystal ball to narrow them down, but it's all useless. He's lost them, he thinks for a few seconds, and he's starting to get an idea of where they're heading, so he pulls out his phone and tries to navigate to maps, but he's already too much of an unk to do that. Our boy doesn't even know how to use his cell phone. At that moment, Kyoko unexpectedly shows up, seizes the phone from him, and begins to use it. Nube is about to get furious that Kyoko came out into this dangerous setting, but at the same time, you can't deny the fact that she's definitely going to be useful if he takes her along. That aside, Kyoko asks Nube whether he has any idea where Hiroshi is. Nube isn't sure, but he thinks it has to do with the 7 northern stars. Kyoko is obviously confused by that, so he plans on explaining it to her. Apparently, in ancient China, there used to be 7 northern stars. Nube believes the man who stole Hiroshi left them. Or rather, he left the otherworldly aura in them. He plans on leaving them in the shape of the 7 northern stars throughout town. The newbie's assumption is that he's planning to do some sort of ritual based on each character with an otherworldly aura, which likely means that Hiroshi is going to be used as a sacrifice. Kyoko hears this and starts to get worried, telling Nube they need to get there as quickly as possible. However, Nube tells her not to panic because he understands that spiritual rituals follow a strict order. If he follows the character of the 7 northern stars in order, the Hagen star would correspond to the last location. Kyoko hears that name and recognizes that it is the name of a popular amusement park. However, it's still under construction. Nube didn't want to bring Kyoko on this mission, but since she's the only one that can help him get there, he has no choice but to bring her along. Meanwhile, the blonde guy is nearing the completion of his flawless master plan. He looks down to the side and sees that Nube has somehow been able to track him down and is now running straight at him. He still has time. He will resolve Nube's issue here permanently. He spots Hiroshi lying on the hands of a clock and about to get sliced. He runs up, trying to save him. The blonde guy just watches from a distance and smirks. Nube is playing right into his trap. By the time Nube tries to save Hiroshi, he widens his eyes in shock as Hiroshi's head gets severed by the clock hands and falls down to the ground. Nube just stares down at the head, speechless. How could he have let this happen? However, in the next moment, the head disappears, revealing that it was all just an illusion. Another one of the blonde guy's illusions is jujutsu, and at the same time he realizes this. The blonde guy throws a sharp spear into his back, causing Nube to fall from the height of at least 3 stories. He walks over to pull the spear out from his back, saying this was as easy as taking candy from a baby. He didn't even need to get his hands dirty. Nube struggles and grabs his foot, telling him to let Hiroshi go, but the blonde guy just stomps on his head in response. He walks away and admires the night sky, saying it's a beautiful night to perform the humanification ritual. In this world, a fox that lives up to 300 years may become a yoko, which is a type of yokai that can master humanification. He needs Hiroshi's skull to turn into a human so he can live. Among their kind is the perfect yoko. As he takes Hiroshi to the ritual site, he mentions that he saw him like 3 months ago and was so happy because that meant he would be able to start his ritual soon. In the initial stages, he believed that finding a human skull at the hospital would be easy, which motivated him to become a doctor. However, he soon realized that locating the right skull was not as simple as he had thought. But then one day he bumped into Hiroshi, and just by looking at him, he could tell that he had the perfect skull. It felt like a miracle for him. Ever since that day, he's watched Hiroshi very closely and was able to confirm that Hiroshi's shoes would fit him. The process of humanification requires a human skull. However, if there's any anger left in that skull, it would act as noise and obstruct the ritual. That's why he placed his otherworldly aura in the Tantrum book. But to purify his skull, he would need to erase all his anger. He placed the object inside him and then carefully observed its progression. Everything up to this point went a lot better than he expected because he now has a new skull right in the palm of his hand. Nube hears all this and now understands that it was his fault. The blonde guy mentions that he spent years researching humans and he's noticed that they all drown in their own selfishness. However, he knows he's not any better than humans in the incomplete state he is. He needs the perfect skull to become the perfect yoko. He now has a very aggressive expression on his face. Then he unexpectedly uses his weapon to slash himself in the face here. Or she sees that and screams because the blonde guy has just transformed into a blonde fox. After summoning the 7 northern stars, civilians see them align in the sky and think they're pretty. He lifts his spear, ready to split open Hiroshi's skull. But before he can, Nube calls out to them and interrupts it. This gives Hiroshi the chance to escape temporarily. The fox sees this as a futile struggle, so he sends one of his magic bullets on course to hit Hiroshi. Hiroshi is able to run and get to Nube just in time, but little does he know that Nube has blocked the bullet from hitting him. Hiroshi tries explaining the entire thing, but Nube urges him to hush up. He's his student and he'll do whatever it takes to protect him. He intends to use his cosmic powers to definitively defeat the mystic fox. Thus, he instructs Hiroshi to observe from behind. Nube steps forward and activates his cosmic powers. The blonde fox watches in shock. Is that spiritual energy or demonic? The fox launches 3 illusions at Nube, and initially, he is able to hold his ground. However, he begins to struggle when the real blonde fox gets involved. He drives him forward with his spear. He doesn't understand Nube at all. He's not even Hiroshi's father, so why bother going this length just to save him? Hiroshi watches from a distance and can tell that Nube is going to get killed if things keep going this way. He should consider developing a plan promptly. Meanwhile, Nube is still in a gruesome battle with the blonde fox. The fox is still very curious as to why he's going to such lengths just to save Hiroshi. Nube simply replies, saying that Hiroshi is his student and there's no chance in hell that he's going to let his student hang during his time here, or she just got an idea. So he's trying to break into the magnetic lever machine, but it looks like he's having a little trouble. At that moment, Kyoko unexpectedly appears and utilizes a massive steel pipe to forcefully break down the door. Nube is still getting his ass kicked and is even about to get beheaded by the illusion in the air. But before they're able to hit him, Hiroshi uses the magnetic machine to pull them up and leaves the real fox open for an attack. Nube now knows which one is real, so he wastes no time in delivering an attack that drives his demon fist all the way through his stomach. The fox has now been defeated, and his final words ask Nube for his name, and then, before he fades away, he says he hopes they meet in another life. Hiroshi and Kyoko have bright smiles on their faces, realizing that Nube has won the battle. They run over to him to celebrate and praise him, but he humbly tells them that he never would have been able to win if not for their smart magnet idea. The northern stars return to their place of origin and everything goes back to normal. About half an hour later, Nube sits with the kids and informs them that the person they just defeated was a fox that had lived for centuries and ended up being turned into a yokai. Hiroshi hears this and mentions that he didn't think all this magic yokai stuff really existed. Nube understands why he would think that. It's difficult to believe what you can't see, after all. However, these cosmic beings have coexisted with humans for a very long time. He thinks building and maintaining a relationship with them is most important. Hiroshi was grateful to Nube for saving his life, and his mood at school and outside of school has improved since then. He was just a happier person overall, and it's all thanks to Nube. He is certain that Nube is the best homeroom teacher he has ever had. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about this anime recap by liking, sharing, and commenting, and please subscribe to the channel to help us reach 5,000 subscribers.
Take you.